You don't need a lot of coding experience to start with AI engineering and building with AI. Google's Gemini API documentation makes it very easy to start as a beginner. We'll need two things for this Gemini AI connection. One is a Gemini API key, and for that we'll need a project in Google Cloud Platform or GCP. If you don't already have a project in GCP, search for GCP in your browser, log in to console.cloud.google.com, and at the top of the page, click on this option for your projects. You'll see this modal for all your projects, but click on New Project in the top right corner and create your new project. Back in the Gemini API documentation, click on the Get a Gemini API Key button or navigate to ai.dev, which is Google AI Studio. Go to the left navigation, click on Get API Key. And if you don't already have API keys created, then click on Create API Key. Select your Google Cloud project and create API key in existing project. If you navigate back to the AI Studio homepage and scroll down, you'll see a section for Get Started with Gemini, and it gives you code that you can copy. You can select different coding languages. We can stick with Python and click on this copy icon in the top right corner of this panel and go to Google Colab, colab.research.google.com, where you can create a new notebook and paste your code in the code block. We're using the first line to install the Google Gen AI SDK or software development kit, which is necessary to use Google's Gen AI models. And then this line imports the Gen AI module from the Google library. Copy the API key that you created in AI Studio. I created a secret for my Gemini API key by going to the left navigation and clicking on this key. So I named the secret Gemini API key and then paste the value in here. With my API key protected as a secret, I created this variable Google API key and used this userdata.get method to retrieve the Gemini API key as a secret. And then we initialize the Gen AI client so we can pass our API key to the Gemini API. And then in this code here, we're using the generate content method to send a request to the Gemini API. We declared the Gemini model that we want to use. If you go to AI Studio under Run Settings in the right panel here, click on this area and you'll see all the models that you can use along with the names. For our code, we're using Gemini 2.5 Flash, as you can see here. And then for the contents, that's what your prompt will be. We're also adding this line to import user data from Google.Colab to grab our Gemini API key secret. We're going to go ahead and click on this play icon to run this block of code. We're asking Gemini to explain Google AI Studio to us. By default, the Gemini 2.5 Flash model enables the thinking feature, which enhances response quality, but also increases response time and token usage. So if you want to prioritize speed or minimize cost, then you can disable this feature by setting the thinking budget to 0. And you would do this with these lines of code here. If you're using Gemini 2.5 Pro, you can't disable this because it is the flagship model. When we scroll down, our response will appear below the code here, where we see a nice comprehensive response broken down by points. You can compare this to what you might see from the Gemini web app or in Google AI Studio with the different Gemini models. A great feature of Google AI Studio is that you can generate custom code based on the run settings that you configure. In the right panel, for run settings, choose your Gemini AI model, define your system instructions for tone and style, and other settings like temperature, media resolution, thinking mode, thinking budget, grounding with Google search, and URL context to understand websites. Once your settings are ready, go to the top right corner and click on Get Code. And this will give you your custom code. You can choose what coding language you want to use. And here's your code. It gives you the code to send your Gemini API key to the Gemini API, defines the Gemini model that you're using. Here's the portion for your prompt, and then the configurations and the settings for the thinking budget, as well as the system instructions. And this portion right here gives you the streaming effect, so it looks like it's responding in real time. You can copy the code, you can download the code, or you can bring it straight into Google Colab. If you need help troubleshooting your code, there are a couple things you can do. You can take a look at the Gemini API documentation to find explanations. You can go to AI Studio, and in the left navigation, there's a stream real-time feature where you can share your screen and it'll walk you through as you ask questions about your code and how to change it, how to correct it. There's also this Gemini feature in Colab where you can ask it to explain the code to you. So in Google's Gemini API documentation, it explains API keys, why you need Google Cloud projects, how to import projects, and how to manage all of this in Google AI Studio. Under models, you'll see more detailed documentation that describes each of these AI models. For example, with Gemini, you'll see labels such as most advanced model for Gemini Pro. If you expand the Learn More section, you'll see the model details, including the text-to-speech capabilities. You'll see inputs that it takes, outputs, token limits, capabilities, etc. The documentation for image generation gives you code examples in various languages, parameters that you can configure such as the number of images, image size, aspect ratios, etc. There's this prompt guide for style, providing context, and how you can generate text with images, along with advanced prompting techniques. There's documentation for video generation with Veo, and there are code examples for different cinematic styles, creative animation, cinematic realism, etc. You can generate videos from images with this code here. There are other parameters and specifications that you can define. We have prompting tips to guide both visual and audio output. There are a lot of examples that compare simple prompts with more detailed prompts. There are details for the various VO models. And then we have documentation for experimental models like Lyria for AI music generation, a Gemini robotics AI model, and in the next section we have core capabilities. For example, with text generation, it'll show you how to add system instructions to provide guidance for the output, how to use multimodal inputs like images, how to implement streaming responses so that it looks like it's responding in real time. We have the image generation documentation with the current up-to-date Gemini image gen model. Right now it's Nano Banana. We have the different types like text to image, image plus text to image, multi-image to image, etc. Here's the text to image code example with the prompt here, the model defined, and then the parts for the text as well as the actual image. Then there's the text and image to image for image editing with the prompt here, providing the image that you want to edit, the model. There's a prompting guide for different use cases like generating photorealistic scenes. It gives you a template asking you to define the shot type, the subject, action or expression, the environment, lighting description, the mood or the atmosphere, camera and lens details, key textures, as well as the aspect ratio. Then it provides a prompt example and actual code. So again, here's the model, the actual prompt, and then the parts to generate the output. For stylized illustrations and stickers, here's a template, the prompt, and then the Python code, other code examples you can grab. You can generate accurate text and images. So for text, it suggests that you define the image type, the brand concept, the text, the actual text to render, the font style, style description, and the color scheme. So this is what it would look like. You would just replace the contents of the prompt with your actual prompt. There's guidance for product mockups and commercial photography, minimalist and negative space design, sequential art, that means character consistency and scene description, like if you're telling a story, and then additional prompt for editing images, like adding or removing elements, inpainting, changing the style of elements in the image but keeping everything else the same, style transfer, and combining multiple images into one. There's the speech generation documentation. It looks like it's an experimental model for single speaker text to speech or multiple speaker text to speech, controlling the speeds, the style, etc. Long context capabilities, you have use cases for long form text, long form video and audio. It explains what the context window is and what long context looks like. So if you want to chat with data, if a user uploads 10 PDFs or even a video, for example, there's structured output documentation where you can organize the data. For example, if you're extracting information from resumes or form submissions, you can perform further processing on that. There's thinking documentation. It walks you through configuring the budget allocation, that is how many tokens you want to allocate to thinking, how to generate thought summaries, even thought signatures. There's document understanding. So if you want to upload PDFs or understand PDFs, how to process PDFs with text, images, diagrams, etc. Under image understanding, it talks about passing images to Gemini, so you can ask it to caption the image or ask what the images depict. You can go through object detection. So here's an example of how to set up the bounding boxes for images. There's segmentation, which not only helps you configure the bounding boxes, but also helps you identify or provides an overlay for the specific objects. So it looks something like this. So you have all these boxes around the object, but also an overlay to identify the various objects in the image. In the video understanding documentation, it guides you through the different video inputs it takes. You can upload a file, pass inline video data, or pass YouTube URLs. Here's the code for uploading videos, the code for passing video data inline, and then the code to reference a YouTube URL. You can reference timestamps, specific segments in the video, transcribe the video, or ask Gemini to provide a video description. That's all similar to audio understanding, where you can obtain a transcript or refer to specific timestamps. There's function calling documentation, where you can call tools, external tools, and APIs and use them with Gemini, like getting the weather or scheduling a meeting or creating a chart. The Gemini team has also developed tools that you can use with Gemini. So you can use web search to help generate responses to your prompts. Here's the code that declares the search grounding tool. It walks you through how search grounding works and the different parts of the grounding response, including the web queries, the URLs it explores to find your answers, and you can also attribute sources with inline citations. So you declare a function to do so, and then insert citations in the response. There's the code execution tool, which allows you to generate and run Python code, so you can use it to solve coding problems, run calculations, etc. There's the URL context tool, which is a little bit different than the Google search grounding tool, but you can use it in conjunction with one another. The URL context tool looks at specific URLs that you provide in your prompt. So you can ask Gemini to extract data, compare documents, synthesize and create data, analyze code and docs like GitHub repositories, pull prices, pull names, pull information from various URLs. Here's the code, here's the declaration for the URL context tool, the URLs that you provide, and then the response that comes from the tools. Computer use is an experimental tool that allows Gemini and its AI to perform functions. You can automate tasks like grab data, perform data entry, perform automated testing, fill out forms, conduct research across various sites. So you can use it to perform actions like clicking on elements on a web page, going forward or backward, navigating to different areas of a website. You can use it to create an agent loop where it'll perform multi-step interactions. There's the Live API, which allows you to stream real-time voice and video interactions with Gemini. The AI allows you to process continuous streams of audio, video, and text. So it's like having a conversation with the AI. If you found this useful, like the video and leave a comment. If you want more content on AI, workflow automation, and analytics, subscribe to the channel.